Number 3, music. I'm gonna get in trouble. So I'm gonna jump into this one again. I've got some thoughts behind it, but before I get into that, this video is gonna be a little bit different. This one is gonna be all about my video process, because a couple of people have asked me, Dave, how do you do your videos? And so I kinda wanna show a truncated version of how I produce every single one of these videos, starting with the time lapse. Okay, so I'm gonna let this dry for a little bit. It's a little thick, a little wet, so we're gonna let it dry. But that doesn't mean we can't talk about video. Now these videos, they're a little bit more complex than the average, let's just put a camera in the studio and start filming. But they're not super detailed. I try to make this as fluid and simple as possible, yet remain entertaining and visually appealing. I need to make this as stimulating as I possibly can. So when I'm doing my video, I have about 5 or 6 different main areas that I like to concentrate on. The first being obviously you and me sitting here at the camera talking just like this, whether it's talking about art, talking about politics, talking about social things, talking about whatever. Number 2 big one is obviously the time lapses, because I have to have something of a bumper which kind of pushes between the different elements that I include in the video, and time lapses to me are interesting. I really dig them. Speaking of daily life, you also see some of the stuff that I get to see on the street, whether it's going to hang out at a coffee shop, going to meet other people, going to a particular event, like a conference or whatnot. You get to see some of that. Or I'll incorporate the casual time that I spend. Maybe it's at the beach, maybe it's at the pool, maybe it's at the gym. And then of course, there's always the family time, because I wouldn't be complete if I didn't include my family. My family is very important to me, and my kid's pretty cute, and I know that people like to see him on camera. Poor puppy dog's a little hot. Freckles, you hot? You hot? So once I've collected all the footage, I take the camera and I squeeze the juice out of it. Rather, I pull the card out of it and I transfer it to this thing. Everything I do with the videos is on this device. And I did this for a very particular reason. Videos take up a lot of space on the hard drive, and I kept having to extract the videos off my hard drive on my laptop and put them on here anyway, so I just decided to work strictly from here. Now, this provides a certain amount of limitation because this thing isn't quite as fast as the hard drive on my computer. So once I've done all the video, made all the video, and transferred it to the hard drive, which I've done through this, then I take it all and I bring it into my software of choice, which is Adobe Premiere Pro. You don't have to use Adobe Premiere Pro. It's a very expensive program, or can be. I like to, because I like to take a step up and spend a little extra money sometimes, but you can do video completely with an iMovie or whatever app comes with Windows. You can even do it directly from your phone these days, or you can even edit in YouTube if you prefer. I've never done that. I don't know how easy it is. I'm sure that process is going to get better as time goes on, but right now I'd rather use the pro stuff because that's just kind of how I roll. The general idea with all of my videos is this: about 8 to 12 minutes, sometimes a little bit longer if I'm pushing it because I'm teaching you something. I'm really intrigued by flow and managing that flow within the video. And so I've created this kind of rhythm to my videos that I feel works for me. That's why I always start with something arresting right from the start, or kind of catch your attention that might not necessarily have 100% to do with the whole video, but at least gets your attention right from the start. And then you get the boom with my name. Then comes the music. Music is part of who I am. I love music, I love listening to music, I love sharing music. So music is a big part of this, but it also helps create this continuity with everything that goes on and kind of creates the flow and melds everything nice together. It's kind of like salt in a recipe. That's what music is. So then we have our first time lapses or our street scenes or whatever I happen to be doing to kind of lead to it. And this is all determined based on the core content. If I have a lot of core content, then my bumpers at the front and the end are going to be a lot shorter. If my core content is a little bit thinner, then I need to create more content on the edges so that I can get to that 8 to 12 minute mark. I don't always hit it. Some of my videos are a little bit shorter, but for the most part, that's what I'm aiming for. And so I try to get as much content as possible and use whatever I can to make it within that time frame. Once I finish with bumpers and filler content, then I get to the core content, and obviously I center the entire video around that core content. And once I've gotten the message put together, then I add either more filler, more music, more snippets, anything else that kind of ties everything together. If you look at the last video I just did, you'll notice that I was talking about motif and tying everything together. But did you notice the motif in that video? Let me give you a hint. It was the cars. The cars had absolutely nothing to do with the content except for this loose tie to the idea of motif. I wasn't talking about cars, I wasn't working on cars, I wasn't really in cars, but I used the cars together and it just worked. At least it worked for me. So I'm trying to tie everything together and then wrap it up in a nice tight little bow at the end. And sometimes that's just a little bit of bumper, sometimes it's more time lapse, sometimes it's just straight into the ask or the call to action where it's like, hey, go subscribe. By the way, you should subscribe, but go subscribe and follow me and go to my social and do all that stuff. You should do all these things. This format that I'm doing right now is the format that I'm doing right now. It won't always be that way, but that's what I'm doing right now. Some date in the future, I'm probably gonna do something completely different. Maybe. But this seems to be working for me now, and I think people are entertained and they're enjoying it, so I'm gonna keep doing it. Let's go back out here for a second so I can talk to you about the 6 things that I find are the most important factors in making a good video, at least in my opinion. Okay. Contrary to what you might think, noisy chairs are not number 1. What is number 1 is motif. You didn't even see those. Why am I doing this? To give myself something to do while I talk to you about painting. So now I can put all my brushes back in here and everything, because this lends itself to the idea that I am in my studio. I'll finish the rest later. Which lends me to number 2, which is rhythm. How you flow with your video is incredibly important because nobody wants to watch you sit here and blather on for hours and hours and hours and hours. They don't want to just look at your face while you pontificate about the importance of your navel. They want to have things going on. I don't know why I'm doing that. Even the people that are having conversations where it's a long extended talk or monologue, there's usually some sort of snippets happening to cut up the video so that it becomes more interesting. That's why flow is important. I can't express this enough. Keeping this thing moving is what's the most, well, one of the most important factors because it is a movie. Number 3, avoid cliches. Some of you may have seen a video or two where somebody went and did something like this. And that was to signify some sort of jump cut. People do that thing all the time where they put their hand up to the camera and that automatically jump cuts to the next scene, which is an effective way of doing a jump cut, an interesting way of doing a jump cut, except everybody does it. Don't do that. If you see somebody doing something cool, appreciate the fact that it's cool and then go do your own thing. Number 3, music. I'm gonna get in trouble. Music is essential to making a good video flow. If you've got a video with a bazillion jump cuts, it's just gonna feel like a bunch of cuts unless you tie it together with some music. Choose your music wisely. don't use Def Leppard. Make sure you use rights available music. YouTube has a bunch. You can find some online. Use that. Number 5, equipment. You don't need a fancy one like this or a fancy tripod like this. You can use your iPhone if you want. In fact, you can do your entire video through your iPhone. You can record on your iPhone. You can edit in your iPhone. You can upload to YouTube in your iPhone. You don't need this. Now, you do that enough, you're going to probably want to upgrade, and you'll probably want to upgrade slowly. This is a moderate buy. You don't necessarily need a super fancy high-end DSLR camera to get started. If you've got, expendable income that you're just looking to throw around, then go for it. Go get yourself a Canon D70 or whatever. Get the one that you feel is best for you and what you need. And finally, be funny, smart, entertaining, and concise. Do all of those things at once. You need to remember that people are not just here because they want to necessarily learn something. They want to be entertained. How many people have gone onto YouTube and searched for a how-to and gotten a how-to from somebody who could barely speak English and had a really monotone voice that talked like this and didn't really give any enthusiasm about what they were saying, no matter how smart they were on the subject? Nobody wants that. They want to be entertained. So even if you're trying to teach somebody something on here, be entertaining, be funny, be smart, be concise. A note on concisism. Concisity? Keeping things short. William Shakespeare once said, brevity is the soul of wit. I don't know why I'm doing this like this, but this looks very Shakespearean. Basically, that means keep it simple, stupid. And I'm not trying to call you stupid. I'm just saying, keep it short, keep it simple, keep it going, keep it moving, and get to the point. I film a ton of video. I've probably filmed about an hour's worth of video just for this one, and then I trim the hell out of everything. But what is the result? Is a short, concise, funny, entertaining video that you appreciate because I took the time to make sure that I made it so. All right, look. These are just my rules for myself. There's plenty of other people doing it differently and doing it well. Much better than me. I have a very, very, very small fan base at this point, but it's growing. And it's growing because of things that I've learned about myself and how I like to produce videos, and those people appreciate that. You need to find your flow, you need to find your rhythm, you need to find the thing that you want, or don't. Do whatever you want, but take into consideration the viewer. Think about what they want. Do that and you'll probably be all right.